welcome back to POV
with Hailey and Brie.
This is episode we don't even know anymore. Guys, we have a special guest. He's not here.
Oh, where'd he go?
Oh wait!
Whoa!
It's Bill Hetzel!
Can you believe it?
You got so excited.
I got very
This is
excited
going to
for
be
Bill.
the best episode ever.
Cheers, Bill. Cheers.
Good job.
Cheers.
You guys aren't even ready for this episode.
No, I don't think
It
we
is
are either.
100 degrees.
Oh yeah, Bill has something to say.
And for all of you trolls talking about legs and feet, suck it.
Oh man.
What he said.
Yeah.
So you haters, or I don't know, they could be stans, but
We're
they
not
just
sure.
really like feet.
It's just
I don't
not
know.
welcomed.
It's not welcomed.
No, thank
Whatever.
you.
Anyways, so much going on. Bill Hetzel is the owner of this studio,
This fine establishment.
this fine
that
establishment.
we film in.
That
He lets
There's
us
no
use.
AC, obviously.
yeah. The AC's too loud, so there is AC. So shout out to your AC, but you got to work on it being so loud.
Yeah, well, that's what happens.
Yeah. Anyways, we're gonna get into this episode. It's gonna be a time. We're all gonna have a time.
We're going to have a good time.
We're gonna have a really good time. So we're just gonna start it off like normal. Bill, when was the last episode you watched of us?
I watched the last one, I think.
Oh,
Did you?
yeah, the one with Sierra.
Yeah.
Was that the one
Wow.
with Sierra?
The one about careers.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
that was 2 ago, but
Oh,
that's
2
okay.
ago.
It's okay. It's Tuesday. A new one just came out. So, anyways, we start out with a check-in.
You know that anyways isn't actually a word?
Anyway.
There's no S at the end.
Anyway.
Just
Anyway.
saying.
It's just anyway.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Oh.
Well, it's
There's anyways.
no.
It's anyway.
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 Anyway,
Not anyways. What if I do anyways with a Z?
Hey, if you want to be ghetto, you go right ahead. I mean, I think we're peaking on the mics.
Oh,
We should
okay.
turn them down.
it's okay. I'll
Because it's just going to get worse from here.
okay.
Let's be honest.
Should I? Oh well, we'll figure it out.
Here, hold.
Bill's gonna turn the mics down. Okay. Good. Thank you, Bill.
All right. I
Bill's
think-
still
okay.
peeking, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
fine. Where are we?
On a scale of 1 to 10.
Today, 1 being the worst.
Yes.
1 being the
10
worst.
I probably am an 8 today. I'm going to go with 8.
I was really worried there for a second. I thought for sure you were going to be like, this was the worst day of my life.
No, maybe an 8.5. That would be like a solid B, right? So I was in Big Bear and hung out with the family, hung out
nice.
with the wifey, and got some stuff done at the cabin in Big Bear.
Nice. You have a cabin.
I do.
Wow. How are you feeling today?
Brianna's a 10.
9.
A 10 today.
No, I'm a 9. We always save room for the best day ever. You can't ever be a 10.
Here it is.
That's true. Honestly,
It's all downhill from
I
here.
had Chick-fil-A for free for lunch today.
Whoa.
So, shout out to my boss, Javi.
That was nice.
We love free Chick-fil-A. That was great. So, and then we came here. It's been a blast so far.
Okay. I like the positivity.
Haley, what on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh man. I think I'd say an 8.5.
8.5
It was
today?
just
Solid
an
B
average,
today?
solid B today.
Oh no, an average day is not 8.5.
Yeah, average day is like a 7 or
6.
6.
Okay,
You
well,
know.
we'll say walking in I was a 6, now I'm an 8.5.
Okay.
Hanging
All right,
out
all
with
right.
Bill is a grand old
It is
time.
really
Can't complain, so,
We're gonna have a good time.
good.
We're already having a good time.
Already having a great time. Here's the episode, guys. Here's what we're talking about. Community.
What are we talking
We're
about?
talking about community. We're talking about friends. Haley and I are friends. Bill and I are friends.
Haley and I are
Bill
friends.
are friends.
Bill, I know. I'm just talking about me.
I mean, you and
It's
Bill
all
are
about you,
closer
Brie.
friends.
Now you
but-
were supposed to say Haley and Bill are friends, and you did. You jumped in at the right part.
Okay.
Good job.
All right. I'm glad we established that we're all friends
got it.
here.
We're all friends here. We met at church. Bill's super techie. Very fun. And now we're going to hear about Bill's community when he was in his 20s, which I am super interested to hear. And we'll kind of talk about, our community too. But I think part of it is your 20s is a super influential time of your life. And it's a super difficult time of your life sometimes. I mean, I feel like there's always different periods of difficulty. But, I think we kind of just want to talk about what community is like in your 20s and what that was like for Bill. So give us a little quick like, this was my 20s, this was my friends and my community in my 20s, this is how I got into that community. Give us, like, that background. Is that too broad?
It's broad. 20s are a long time, right? Okay, so my 20s.
Well, like, the most influential part of your 20s.
Okay. This is coming quick, so let me think. I just need a second.
We can start with shorter questions if you would like.
No. Let's start by saying that I got to break my 20s down into a couple sections.
Okay.
I have to get serious here. So my early 20s were sort of defined with going to school.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the school that I attended.
Which was?
APU.
Okay.
Interesting.
I liked it when I first went. Mm-hmm. And then at about year 3, I was 20.
Yeah.
I just realized, maybe realized is a bad word. For me, it was BS. It's just junk. I hated it. I was dating a girl who went to UCLA, and I really just would rather have gone to UCLA. But I looked into it. I couldn't transfer units. So I said, okay, I'll stick it out. So I had early 20s, sort of APU. And by the time I graduated from APU, all I wanted to do was get away from that crowd. I thought that the Christian community and the APU community, which is what I related, Christianity to, was massively hypocritical. I wanted nothing to do with it. I just was looking for something else. So that's what, 21, 22. At the same time, I was working for Disney.
Well, like in the college program?
No, I just went down and said I want a job and interviewed, and they gave me a job.
What was your job?
Yeah.
So I worked the rides. I worked Thunder Mountain.
Whoa.
Why can't I even think of the rides? I worked Thunder Mountain. I worked Mark Twain. I worked Jungle Cruise. I worked Pirates of the Caribbean. I worked on the monorail.
Do you remember any of the jokes from Jungle Cruise?
I could do the whole tour for you.
That
if
is
you
so
want.
funny.
Whoa.
Next episode.
Next episode. Anyway, with that being said, people will ask me a lot about college and like your college friends that you know forever because those are the most influential people of your life. That's not true. The people that I'll have friends forever are from Disney. Disney was sort of my college experience that I didn't have. But because of that, if you know anyone who works for Disney, they are not all good-hearted people. They like to party.
Yeah.
And so that thus enter the next section of my 20s. So it was like, you go party, you go do things, you go meet people. And eventually, I graduated from college and I got a job. And eventually I moved up in the job enough that they said, look, we want you dedicated here, not splitting your time between 2 jobs. Pick one. So I picked the career and I quit Disney. And then it was sort of an interesting time because I was going to college and working for Disney, right? So I'm working full-time, going to school full-time. Then it's like I get out of school and I work for Disney, 20 hours a week, and then I had a full-time job as well.
Wow.
So then eventually when I quit Disney, I just had a full-time job, and I hadn't had just 40 hours a week for years. So for me, I felt like I had a massive amount of free time. So with that free time, I played, and so it would be like, the best way to explain this is that time in my life, that was my mid-20s, go watch the movie Swingers. Okay? So
Have you seen
if
this
any
movie?
of you at
No,
home
I don't think so.
ever have seen the movie Swingers,
So
You gotta go watch
I
this
need to
now.
go watch it.
you'll watch it when you get home.
Okay.
So basically that was my life. And I'll give you a little synopsis. So the movie, Jon Favreau, you can write me a check later because of the popularity of this podcast. you're going to see your revenue go way up for like an hour, and then it's going to come back down. But anyway.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So anyway, with that being said, the story goes like this. There's a guy, he moves to LA to be an actor. He's living in an apartment. He meets other single guys who are all trying to kind of do the same thing. Now, I never wanted to be an actor, but this lead character had broken up with his girlfriend back home in Ohio or something, so he's sort of depressed. So the movie starts out with Vince Vaughn's character saying, let's go to Vegas! And they get in a car and drive to Vegas, right? And I was like, yeah, I've done that a lot, where my friends and I are like 10 p.m., let's go to Vegas! We jump in a car, we're at Vegas by 2 a.m., we gamble all night and drive home.
Fun.
And then I show up at work at 9 a.m. and I hadn't slept. So
Yikes.
that
sounds
typical.
Hard day.
It was a normal day.
Yeah, I guess when you're used to it.
So then it's like, so that's the first part of the movie. The second part of the movie is it's like, that I remember, is it's like, they all want to go out. So they're like, we're meeting over at, this guy's house in Hollywood at like 9 o'clock. So he shows up at the guy's house. They're all playing video games. They order Pink Dot. For any of you who don't know, in the 90s, there was a grocery store that delivered called Pink Dot.
And DoorDash.
Maybe, but Pink Dot was the original. So Pink Dot was like, you could call Pink Dot up and you'd be like, hey, I want to get a 6-pack of beer. I want to get a bag of Doritos, and can you stop by McDonald's on the way and get me a Happy Meal?
Whoa.
And the guy would show up and he had those things.
Whoa.
And so, anyway, I mean, it was just crazy. And it was just small. It's all in Hollywood. And so, in this movie, they order Pink Dot. The Pink Dot comes, they eat a little bit, then they go to the club. And by this time, it's like 11 o'clock. And I'm watching this movie for the first time, and I'm like, this is my life. We used to go to my buddy's house, my buddy Ryan's house. We'd play Nintendo. We'd order, stuff, beer, chips, whatever. Then about 11 o'clock, we'd go out to clubs or something. And in this movie, Swingers, they go to the clubs that I used to go to. Because it takes place in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So
Are you sure this wasn't based off of your life?
I think actually, John Favreau, you probably owe me money.
He probably met you, and
he
you don't
met
remember.
you don't remember.
Yeah,
you told him about your life.
So he was going to the nightclubs in this movie that I used to go to. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is literally my life, watching this movie. Anyway, so that's kind of, we'd all drive our own cars to the nightclubs, just in case we met someone. We all had our own cars. So in this movie, they do that.
Very thought out.
All 5 guys, 5 cars going to this nightclub. Same thing. We'd all drive ourselves. I mean, no one carpooled, and it's kind of like you wake up the next morning and you're like, "What house am I sleeping in tonight?" It was just
All right.
an interesting.
Party Bill.
Yeah.
There you go. So then that was sort of my mid-20s. Then my late 20s. I actually started my company in my late 20s.
This company?
This company.
Wow.
So I did have to get it together a little bit more. And I kind of said goodbye to some of those friends that I met in my younger 20s. It was sort of like they didn't fit my lifestyle. I was trying to be a better person, if you will. And all of the things that I hated so much about APU, I had figured out. And so I kind of moved forward. And those people didn't necessarily move forward with me. It wasn't that I said, we can't be friends anymore. It's just I progressed.
Sure.
They did not. So it was kind of one of those things where just over time we lost contact or whatever. So.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the initial question was or if I've answered it.
No,
at
yeah.
all.
That's like the brief overview of like where you were in your 20s and like your community. How did you, so the people that you were like going out, hanging out with, were those all people from Disney?
So, funny
That's a
story.
good question.
My wife, I met at Disney.
No way.
My best friend, I met at Disney.
Okay.
And
So have you known your wife since your 20s?
Yes.
Okay.
So we got married. So I like to tease her a lot. She dumped me quite a few times over the years.
Fair.
Mr.
So-
Party Bill.
Party Vegas Bill.
Well, it wasn't so much that. It wasn't because of what I was doing as much as just like we couldn't figure it out. So it'd be like
Just wasn't the right
we
time.
dated a little bit and then we broke up. And then I was away from Disney and it was something would happen. We'd run into each other somewhere and then we'd start dating a bit and then we'd break up. And then, and these times between dating and breaking up were years. I mean, it wasn't like a couple weeks. It was like we dated We broke up. I didn't see her for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
We dated. We broke up. I didn't see her for 4 years. We dated, you know, I mean, it was kind of like, you know, so her and I got married. Well, we started dating for, you know, the last time.
Yeah.
when we were 30.
Okay. You had your life figured out.
Yeah, so our 20s, we kind of, you know, did whatever we both were doing. And then I remember early in our relationship, we went to Vegas, which is kind of funny, right? But we went to Vegas because there was a swing band there. And for her 30th birthday, she wanted to go see the swing band. So I remember her early in our relationship, us going to Vegas to go see the swing band. So anyway, so I met my wife at Disney. I met my best friend at Disney. I have very good friends still to this day I met at Disney. So when people talk about, you know, like I said earlier, you know, your college roommate you'll know forever.
Yeah.
I don't talk to any of my college
people.
roommates anymore, but I do talk to Disney people still.
Yeah.
And to your question, when I was going out in Hollywood, it was not with Disney people. When I quit Disney, I only stayed in touch with a few people, not including my wife. I did not stay in touch with my wife. Like I said, it was like we were broken up. We didn't see each other for years.
Yeah.
So just a few people. My best friend, obviously, we were actually living together.
Okay.
You know, he was my roommate. So
still your best friend now?
Still my best friend
now.
now.
Wow.
So yeah, I met him when I was probably 21. So I've known him almost 30 years now. So, but yeah, it was just the people I was going out with are people I met through friends of friends that we got better, closer, things like that. So.
Yeah. Okay, this is what I want to know more about in your 20s, because you said by the time you were like 30, whatever age it was, that you had kind of figured out that like APU like hate kind of thing. What was the path towards like figuring out like
APU hate?
I don't know what to call it. Your APU Christian.
I resigned myself.
Yeah, resignation. Right. Like, how did you unresign yourself from like all that? That
was one day. So
one day.
So this is sort of interesting. So when I was say 27, 26, 27. I partied a lot, and I remember I'd go and I'd do the swingers game, right? And I'd go out with my friends, and so it'd be like Friday night, we'd go out late, we'd party all night. I'd wake up hungover. I'd drink some orange juice. I'd do whatever I needed to do. Then Saturday night, I'd go out. We'd drink way too much. You know, wake up.
Do it again.
Yeah, just kind of recycle. So, you know, that is my personal life. Then, you know, you have your sort of professional life.
Sure.
And in your professional life, you have to go to work and you have to do things. You have to make real decisions, pay bills, and all that stuff, right? So one of the things that happened was I had moved around a lot in my 20s. I moved almost yearly. So I lived at the beach for a while. I lived in Pasadena for a while. I lived in Azusa for a while. You know, I kind of was all over the place. And when I was about 27, my mother decided to move to Southern California.
Okay.
And the reason was, you know, my nephew was born, and she wanted to be closer to her grandkids.
Moved from Morgan Hill, right?
No, no. My parents left Morgan Hill when I was in college and went to North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
So she was coming back across the nation to live in Southern California because her grandchildren were here. And she didn't have anywhere to live, really. Now, she became a professor at APU. In the meantime, my lease was almost up. And I was like, you know, I got nothing tying me to this house. So she said, why don't we just get a house together? And so it wasn't like a parent-son relationship. It was like roommates. It was really kind of cool. But we get this house, and we moved to Glendora. We found this house in Glendora. Okay. And I can remember the house had a pool. I was swimming in the pool, and I hear like announcements and a loudspeaker behind me, like right behind the fence of my house. And I thought that was odd. And I was like, okay, whatever, you know. And I just kept, you know, swimming or whatever. Days went by, weeks went by. And I could hear these announcements every weekend. And I was like, what in the world are these announcements? So finally one day, it's like I literally pick myself over the fence and I look. It's Grace Church. And they have their soccer program going on, and I can hear the announcements for the soccer program.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Grace Church. And I knew Grace Church because when I went to APU, a lot of people went to Grace Church. And I was like, oh, Grace Church. Maybe one day I should go back to church. Because at this point in my life, there was no church going on. You know, I remember my sister was really happy one year when I was in my mid-20s because I had told her I'd gone to Easter service twice on Easter. And she was like, you went to 2 Easter services? And I said, oh, yeah. And I remember she was like, well, what made you find these churches? I said, well, girl number 1 invited me to this church, and girl number 2 invited me to that church. And she was like...
Bill was trying to play the field.
Yeah, he
really was trying to figure it out.
Yeah, good.
So I was like, you know, but anyway, so yeah, I just wasn't going to church, you know. I never was like, you know, like denying Christ, but as far as practicing Christianity goes, I was on the very far end. You know, it was. So anyway, with that being said, I was kind of like, oh, Grace Church, you know, maybe one day I'll go. But I didn't change my lifestyle. So it'd be like, you know, go out Friday night, wake up totally, you know, hungover. Go out Saturday night, wake up totally hungover. And I remember one day I just kind of I was laying in bed and I was hungover, probably still drunk, and I was laying there and, you know, the world's spinning. I look at my clock, it's like 3 a.m. or something. And I said, you know, God, if you want me to go to church tomorrow, just wake me up. And I went to sleep. And I woke up at like 8 a.m., no hangover, wide awake.
Like,
and I was
right,
like,
I see ya.
I remember I was like, deal's a deal.
Yeah.
Right? So I got up, I threw on a shirt and whatever, I walked around the fence to Grace, and I went to church. And I don't remember what they talked about. It was Gene Wood preaching, you know, and I just kind of walked in the back, I sat there, I left. So, you know, life goes on. And one day at church isn't going to change my life, so the next weekend, exactly the same formula. Get home 3 a.m. Well, God, if you want me to go to church tomorrow, you know what you got to do, right? Go to sleep. 8 a.m., wake up, wide awake, no hangover. Deal's a deal, right? Walk over to church. So I don't know how long this happened. Not long, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. But to your question, so I was walking to church, and they had an easy up. And at the time, Grace was huge. So they had, like every service, their parking lot would get completely filled.
Wow.
And they had parking attendants helping people. They had cars parking on the grass for the soccer field.
Really?
Oh my
Yeah, like
gosh.
they'd fill the soccer field. They'd fill, I mean, you'd park on the street. I mean, it was massive.
Wow.
And they had this easy up, and I'm trying to think, I guess the ministry center was built, or it just finished.
Okay.
I don't remember. I do remember going into the ministry center, but I do know there was still construction there.
Okay.
And there was no plaza. The plaza didn't exist.
Okay.
I don't really remember what was there, but it wasn't what there is now. There wasn't like the nice pavers and the stairs and the coffee shop.
Yeah.
That wasn't there. That didn't exist. So they had an easy up, which was kind of like the welcome center. And I remember walking by, and a guy standing in the welcome center, he goes, hey, you know, I look over, and he's like, come here. Okay, walk over to him, and he says, I've seen you come in here a few weeks. What's going on? Right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh. You know, he introduces himself, and his name's Randy Harrington, still a good buddy of mine. And he was full-time at the church. I don't know what his official title was, but it was like outreach.
Okay.
And so we just started talking. And I missed church that day. We talked
Oh, wow.
the entire service.
Wow.
Like just talking and talking and talking. And I remember telling him, like, on that day, I was like, I went to APU, and I have absolutely no desire to get back into that sort of thing. And he said, he kind of chuckled, and I remember he said this to me, and this was to answer your question. He said, you can never judge a perfect religion by imperfect people. And it was like it struck a chord, and I was kind of like, you know what, he's absolutely right. You know, if my biggest gripe is not that God did something to me, or if my biggest gripe isn't that, you know, religion did something, and my gripe is that people are hypocrites,
Yeah.
so what? You know, I mean, that has nothing to do with God, right?
Right.
That
Yeah.
just has to do with people. And that's kind of when I just was like, all right, I can get back into it then. You know, so that's to your question. And I was probably 27, 28 at that point.
Yeah.
So what did I say, 27? Yeah, something like
Yeah.
Well,
How cool. I like the story of like God waking you up at like 8 a.m. He's like, get it together, Bill.
that. Yeah, it was something had to change.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but yeah, it was it was an interesting time. I mean, I remember Grace didn't have a whole lot for me. They didn't have any sort of young adults, which they have now.
Yeah.
There were probably 7 to 10 people sort of in the boat I was in, where it's like, I have a career, I'm out of college, I'm not married.
Yeah.
And so they encouraged me to go to the college group for a while, which I did. But it was very young. You know, there were people who were 18 there, and there were people, and I was the oldest one there at 27.
Yeah.
And I got along well with a lot of the people there, but I was in a different part of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, I remember, I don't remember what night their group met, Sunday nights maybe even. But they'd all want to go to Starbucks afterwards, and I was like, well, I got to get up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I gotta go to work, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was tough for, I remember the person who was leading the group was a year older than me or something, and it was kind of conflict there. So there wasn't a whole lot for my age and season of life. There was, like I said, there was, 7 to 10 people in the church kind of in the same place, and they kind of tried to start something on their own. And, we would just kind of all go out, but it never really, nothing really formed. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So.
And you said this happened in your later 20s, but like what year did this all take place?
So you're trying to figure out how old I am? Is that?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out, I don't know the exact
2000.
date when the
I'm trying to do
ministry.
timelines.
2000?
Yeah, 2000.
Were you there yet at Grace Church?
What?
No, wait. Were you born?
Depends on what month.
February, right?
Yeah.
February 2000?
I would,
Yeah, it was probably, it was,
moral of the story,
I'm trying to.
Bill's been going to church at Grace Church for as long as I've been alive.
Well, yeah, yes and no. I mean,
On
I
and
stopped
off,
going
right?
to Grace when I got married. I went to Grace from 2000 to 2007.
Okay.
And then I got married, and when I got married, my wife wanted to find a church that was our church and not my church.
Got it.
So we went and we started going to Cornerstone, and then we went to Cornerstone from 2007, 2008-ish to basically, she still goes to Cornerstone. 2020 is when John asked me to come over and help Grace with streaming.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
And then Bill came, and I was stressed, and then I
Well,
think
that's
I called
right.
him crying.
Easter. Wasn't
one
it
of the
Easter?
days.
You
Wasn't
called
it
Bill
Easter
crying?
Day?
No, it wasn't Easter. It was March. It was March
2020.
7th. I remember this. March 7th, 2020 was our first streaming, and John Dix was like, call Bill, or he called Bill, and then I called you, and I was like, what is going on?
I called John. I saw a thing on Facebook, and it was like, we're streaming for the first time ever this Sunday. So I called John, and I was like, hey,
You ready for this?
if you ever need help,
Yeah.
and he's like, I might take you up on that, Hetzel. I think we got things covered, but
No, we did not.
and-
Let me
and-
tell you, I did not
So
have
then
things
it was
covered.
like-
You just didn't want to say from the jump that it just was not going
Honestly,
well.
John Dix had a lot of faith in me. Should have just put it in Bill Hetzel.
You did not get set up for success. On that. I mean, I walked in to help out, and I was getting pushback from volunteers who they all wanted to do things on their
Oh,
own,
yeah.
and it was like
Yeah.
no one knew what they were doing, and no one
Yikes.
would listen to anyone.
COVID
and,
was rough.
I remember I met Josh Baker that day, and I walked in there and I was just trying to help, and I got all this like attitude and pushback, and I was like, all right, man, just do it whatever you want. And I walked out, and Josh comes after me, and he was like,
Please don't leave.
no, he was sort of like, these are volunteers, so I can't really fire them. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was like,
That's funny.
I was
It's
like,
true.
hey, man, I'm not offended. I'm just,
Yeah.
you know.
You're just trying to help,
Yeah.
and you helped a lot.
So
So,
How nice.
yeah, very nice. Okay, we talked a little about your peoples, your.
I'm giving you very broad strokes. So
Yeah.
if there's anything that I say that you want me to dive in on, you just tell
Well, I
me.
feel like we've dived in on a couple things.
But okay, that's
So,
fine. I'm just saying.
Look, we only got
I
like
don't-
45 minutes. I'm pretty sure we're close to that now. I don't really know. I
I
forgot
don't
to
know.
start the timer again.
It's a 2-part episode.
It's a 2-part episode. Oh, I just got a breeze. It's cool in here now. Thank you
I
very
don't know where
much.
it's coming from.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
coming over here.
I know.
I don't know. Okay, community that was it when you got back into church and got back into that lifestyle. Did you feel alone in that like lifestyle, or was there community that like you did that lifestyle, or like that you guys like did life together? Does that make sense?
Mm-mm.
No. Was there a group of people that you were able to do like you said you did like Bible studies, but you said you didn't really get close with that group, right? So was
Oh.
there a group of people that like
So-
you guys were in that faith journey together?
So there's this really great song,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
And the song has this line that I've always said is like my life.
Okay.
And the line goes, you're either a vampire or a victim, depending on who's around.
Okay.
What song is this? Do you remember?
You're gonna make me think of the song title.
Sorry, you don't have to.
I'll think about it as we talk. But basically, I took it to heart, going like, when I was with the people I've met at church, I was the vampire.
Okay.
When I was with my friends in Hollywood, I was the victim. You know?
Okay.
And so it's like you're either the vampire or the victim depending on who's around. And so it was like I'd go out with my friends in Hollywood and they'd want to go out and then they'd start wanting to get into like hardcore drugs and things.
Well-
I never really got into that stuff, right?
Bill said, stay
Bill said,
away.
Whoa.
You know, now
That's where I draw the line.
but, you know, I would still stick around.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
just wasn't
You're not-
partaking.
yeah.
Right?
Smart.
And so it was one
Good
of
job,
those
Bill.
things where I was sort of the victim, right? I was the naive one in the group. But then I'd go to church and everyone would like be like, "We want to go out with Bill cuz he's so fun." And I was like I was corrupting them. You know, so it was like I was the vampire in that group.
Interesting.
And so it was kind of weird in that, you know, I never felt alone at church because I had so many people who like wanted to see what my life was like. And I kind of was like, this is not good. You know, I mean, there were people at Grace that I remember just things they would tell me. I was like, no, we shouldn't be spending time together. I mean, things that they would say is just kind of, I was like, I will corrupt you to the core. This is not, I am not a good influence on you, you know? And so it was kind of, you know, life is a journey.
Yeah.
And just because I started going to Grace doesn't mean that I literally put a stop sign to my other life.
Right.
You know, and it's like, I kind of feel like, you know, you hear these testimonials or people and they'll say things like, and I knew that day my life would change and you know, God blessed me and I was a new man, you know. No, that's not what happened. You know,
Yeah.
it's like if you think about like a gradient, you know, where you have blue to red and it slowly fades from blue to red or black to white.
Yeah.
You know, it goes through like black and almost black and gray and mostly white and then white,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And if you put that on one side and then you put a gradient on the other side that's white that goes to black, you know, it's like they kind of, you know, they're opposites.
Yeah.
That's kind of how life happens. You know, where it's like you have one side of your life where you're 100% in and you're kind of
Yeah.
touching the surface, and then as you move through life, one fades and one takes dominance.
Yeah.
And that's really what happened. Train. Are we doing a train break?
No.
No train break.
No train break today.
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
So that's sort of what happens, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a time where, I'm going to Grace on Sundays and I'm in Hollywood on Fridays. And don't ask me how you consolidate that. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you say you were being as big of a hypocrite as the people you hated. Maybe. I don't know. I was just trying to figure it out. I was trying to figure life out. I tried to figure out who was I.
Yeah.
I mean, and all, I can honestly say, sitting here, almost 50 years old, that in my 20s, I had no idea who I was.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure it out in my late 20s. Like, am I supposed to be this person? Am I supposed to be that person? Do I want to be, the good Christian person? Do I not want to be the good? Do I want to be the party guy? Do I want to be the fun guy? Do I not? I mean, you don't really know. You put on an act a little bit, and there's, for the most part, I'm very introverted. I don't like to get on stage. I don't like to talk to people. I don't like to be in front of the camera. I like to be behind it.
Sorry, Bill.
No, that's all right. John Dix used to always say, "Oh, I'm going to get Hetzel out here one day." And I was like, "No, you're not. There's a reason why I stay behind the camera, right?"
I think you're doing great.
Yeah, you're doing
But
great.
the reality is, I have very few very close friends, and those friends know everything about me. And then I have a lot of people who are friends, but it's all surface.
Sure.
It's all just fun. It's all just, they don't really dive in. So when I was at Grace, I didn't go there looking for like my soulmate or, anything like that. If I met a girl, great. I didn't, but if I met a guy
It's
that
hard.
if I met some guy who was just we really bonded and got really close, great.
Yeah.
I didn't. I
Yeah.
mean, I met some good friends.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I throw something on Facebook of people who I knew at Grace all those years ago. I'm like, hey, what's up? But for the most part, it just was,
Yeah.
So. To your question of did you ever feel alone? Not really.
Yeah.
Because I always had my core group of guys I could fall back on, and those are the kinds of guys who don't judge you necessarily.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hate to do this, reference another movie, but
Go for it.
But go for it. I mean, I'm trying to get the spikes.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you.
But in Good Will Hunting, right?
Yeah.
In Good Will Hunting, they say, I mean, I own a studio. I gotta watch. It's all
Yeah,
about movies,
absolutely.
right?
Go for it.
And sidebar, I went to sushi one time with Josh Baker and some of the guys I work with.
Josh.
And what's up, Josh? The entire lunch we talked about movies. And Josh, I don't know, towards the end of the lunch, he goes, so this is what you guys do all day? You just talk about movies? Like, it was like so good. I mean, I think, I don't know what he expected, but we're talking about movies coming out and who directed it and who's starring in it, what else have they done, and he's just like, this is what you guys do? It's like he was, anyway. So there's this movie, Good Will Hunting. You've seen it, right? Matt Damon.
But I need to.
Okay, Matt Damon.
I know what it is.
Okay. That's 2 movies you have to watch today.
Okay.
All right.
Have you seen it?
I don't think I have.
It's a good one. I've
Yeah.
heard.
Robin Williams, Matt
I
Damon.
know. Yeah.
Oh, Robin Williams.
Ben Affleck. In
And it
fact,
has
that's
the
the one they
famous
won
line.
the Oscar for when
Yeah.
they wrote it. They wrote it.
What? I've
Yeah.
heard of it. I just
No,
haven't
yeah.
watched
And I
it.
know
We
that
gotta
one
watch
scene
it.
where the guy starts crying.
Oh no.
A guy starts crying.
He's like, it's not your fault. He's like, I know.
Oh,
He's like,
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
your fault.
yeah.
I know. And he's like, it's not your fault. And then he starts
Yeah.
crying. I've seen that clip.
Anything
Anyways.
I say is not your fault.
It's your
Okay.
fault.
Anyway, so in the movie, Matt Damon is this genius,
Yeah.
a math genius. Okay, and a professor who's a math genius is trying to take him under his wing and get him to be, live up to his potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Robin Williams, who's a psychologist or psychiatrist, is like, it's not going to work. That's not who he is. You know, he may have this great brain, but if he doesn't want to use it, you can't make him.
Yeah.
And the math professor doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
And he says, why does he hang out with these, gorillas, that are uneducated? And Robin Williams' character says, because of loyalty. They're his friends. And he called them gorillas in the thing. These gorillas. He goes, those gorillas would take your head off if he just asked them to. And it's all about this loyalty that he has to his friends and his friends have to him.
Yeah.
And that's how I really look at my friends when I was in that time. They didn't understand what I was going through. They may not have even agreed with what I was going through. But there was a loyalty and a bond with my friends that if I just said, leave me alone, they would.
Yeah.
And so it was like I never really felt alone because I had this group of friends who were just kind of like, yeah, okay, if you need to figure out you, then you figure out you, and that was enough.
Yeah. Do you think you were more of the person to be like, well, I don't know if this is going to sound bad, but like the influential friend rather than like having your friends influence you and like your life decisions and like your path?
Was I the follower or the leader?
Yeah.
I think it depends on
or like even now.
No, I don't.
No, neither.
I don't think that neither. I wasn't either.
Yeah.
I don't think that I was influential.
Okay.
I mean, there were things that I did here and there, or things that I had said here and there, that were influential.
Okay.
There was a time where I was spending all of my time out in LA with all my friends in LA, and I was living in Azusa with some people who went to APU. And I remember I was still very conflicted about Christianity. And I came to my house, I came home one time, and I was with one of my good friends, and my roommate was having a Bible study. And I walked in, and I guess I didn't know, or I didn't realize, or whatever, but I walked in, and we were loud. We walked in, we were like, oh, sorry, that kind of thing. And he was like, oh, that's okay, you can join us if you want. And I remember I said something like, well, I'm going to hell anyway, it doesn't matter at this point. And I kind of I laughed, and my friend laughed, and the Bible study all kind of wide eyes, like, oh my God, and I probably did something like grab a beer and I left. And I didn't think anything of it until years later that friend said something like, I said something like, hey, you want to go to church or something? He goes, we're going to hell anyway. And he goes, remember when you said that? And it was like I didn't realize that something I said in like haste could be so impactful.
Yeah.
And like I felt guilty for that for years afterwards. So it's like, do I feel like I was influential? No, I don't. But obviously in situations like that I was, and maybe I didn't know it and he looked up to me, and then I basically brought myself back down to a level where he was like, oh, he's nothing special. Or, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what was going through his head. But I think it might go to show you that sometimes you don't think you're necessarily being influential, but you are.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that I probably was a bad example for people, and I think I was probably a good example for other people. It goes back to what I was saying about the vampire, the victim. I mean,
Yeah. All right, I think we're running out of time, so we're going to do this last question, and then our POVs. So what advice would you give to yourself in your 20s, and what advice would you give to people in their 20s currently regarding community, friendship, or if there's something else that you would like to give advice on?
Advice. I would just say, just be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And it's harder than you think.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like in my 20s, I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
it's hard.
tried to be someone who I wasn't.
Sure.
And
But how do you know who you are?
right. I think that deep down you do know who you are. And maybe you're trying to be someone else. You know, I remember for a while, like, I was thinking about this the other day. I used to dress very nice. And everywhere I went, I'd shave and I'd do my hair.
Yeah.
And it was like I was always wearing a collared shirt and I was always wearing, like, designer jeans and I was always put together. And that's really not me.
Yeah.
I mean, on any given day, and I'm wearing a collared shirt right
I
now,
was
which
like,
is
wait.
kind of funny, right? But on any given day, I'm wearing jeans and t-shirt and a ball cap. And that's just who I am. And I've kind of, for lack of a better word, resigned myself to the fact that's who I am. I like who I am. I'm comfortable with who I am. I don't need to try to be someone else to impress people.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, at that time, I remember I would always, you know, I'd be going to LA, I'd dress up, you know, and I'd go here, I'd dress up, and what outfit am I going to wear, and what am I going to do, and what am I going to do this, and when it all came down to it, you know, being just who you are is so much easier and so much better, and it's sort of funny because when I first went to college, I'd wear jeans and a t-shirt and a ball cap all the time, and then it was kind of like, you know, you kind of lose yourself almost while you're trying to find yourself. But really, once I hit kind of my stride, I reverted right back to where I was when I started college, which was I'm just casual, I'm laid back, I don't need to worry so much, you know. You don't have to do things to try to impress people, just be who you are.
Yeah.
So the advice I'd give to other people and the advice I give to myself is exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you don't need to try to be someone you're not. You know, even if you think that, no, I am this person. If you're telling yourself that, you probably aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
That's good advice.
True.
That's good advice.
That was good.
That's good. All right. Well, we're going to end the episode, but first,
POV time.
POV time. Bill, I don't know if you have something prepared.
No, I don't.
Okay, so we're gonna share our POVs while you try to come up with a POV.
Okay.
It's basically just what's an opinion, a
That you
strong
have.
opinion of yours. I will go first because I have so many POVs racked up.
Bro, are you serious?
Juicy stuff. Room temperature watermelon is the most sketchy food ever. That's it. That is my POV.
Do you have any
I
reasoning behind
many
this?
other
First of all, why are you
POVs.
eating room temperature watermelon?
Because if watermelon's been left out, people just leave out watermelon all day at parties, like in the sun.
Can we comment on this?
Yeah. Okay, but
you can tell her
here's a
she's
second.
completely
Here's
wrong.
a second story. The reason I'm thinking of this is because 2020 summer, there was a watermelon in our kitchen, and it exploded in the middle of the night. Watermelon everywhere. It was just sitting on our counter, exploded.
What?
So I don't trust watermelon that is not
Refrigerated? And cut?
Yeah. There's something sketchy going on in those watermelons.
That is so strange.
Yeah.
How did it just...
Do you realize, well, personally,
Okay.
I hate all melon.
How do you hate watermelon?
I hate,
Watermelon,
no,
cantaloupe,
it doesn't matter.
honeydew?
If it's melon, it does
probably
not,
more.
it does not get consumed by me.
Why?
So I don't care if
What if it's a juice? Watermelon juice?
No.
Why do you feel this way about the
Watermelon
melons?
Melons
Why
are
do you hate melons?
disgusting. They are awful.
But
What's your-
watermelon's not
you know
really
what's
a
the worst?
melon.
You know,
Water.
it's
water.
You go to a
Watermelon's
restaurant,
90%
and they're like, hey, do you want fries or fruit? And
Fries.
you're like, I'll have fruit, please. And they give you watermelon, cantaloupe, and grapes. That's
Yeah.
not fruit.
Yeah, it is.
That's a fruit.
Apples,
That is fruit.
bananas, oranges.
It's a type of
bananas?
fruit.
Those are
Bananas
fruit.
are also sketchy.
Melons are fruit.
No, melons are not fruit.
I'm pretty sure they are
No.
classified as a fruit.
You
definitely-
can classify it as whatever you
It has
want, but I mean, it is disgusting. So, your room temperature, I agree with you.
Okay.
But he also
Also-
is biased because he hates all
He
melons.
hates melons, so
You
it's
know,
not a POV.
I also-
refrigerated, frozen,
I
hot.
enjoy melons, but I'm gonna have to agree. That just seems like I don't think room temperature, like melon, is a good idea.
No, it's not. But people eat it all the time.
That's weird. I've never met anybody that's done that.
You've definitely done it before.
I've never had room temperature watermelon.
You've never gone to a party, sawn watermelon out, and eaten it.
Usually it comes out of the fridge. Usually it's cold.
No.
Well, I mean, that's weird. Also, I don't know why your watermelon exploded on your
I don't know. If anybody can tell me
that is
why
a little strange.
it exploded, it was literally over all my work, like laptop, my
That's insane.
worksheets.
Why is your laptop sitting next to the watermelon?
I don't know.
Be-
Well, another
didn't
story.
realize it
Hailey,
was
what's your
gonna
POV?
My POV. Man, oh man. This is going to be very controversial because we
Oh.
had Sierra on.
Okay.
I had high hopes. I really did.
Oh, because we saw the Barbie movie.
We went and saw the Barbie movie. I don't know if you've seen the Barbie movie.
No. I
You
have not.
should go see it just to say you've seen it. But it honestly, like, I had high hopes for it.
Yeah.
And it didn't
flap.
hit. It didn't hit as well as I really wanted it to.
Was it overhyped?
It made me very sad. Yeah.
It made you sad?
No, I think it made me sad that it just wasn't like as good as I thought it was gonna be. I felt like how you explained it, where we were going and then you lost me, and then we were there and then you lost me again.
Yeah.
It was a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
And
Out of 10, what do you give it?
I give it like a 7. I was really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I give it a 7.5.
Yeah. I mean, they got some good bops in there. There was some good stuff, but they lost me at some point.
It was you were laughing a lot.
I did. Some of it was really funny. Like, it was good, but there was parts
It just
that lost
didn't
me.
land. It didn't land.
No, it didn't land the way I think it should have.
Yeah, tragically. I do love Margot Robbie though.
Yeah, it was like all around. It was an okay film.
It was an okay film.
I feel like
So sad.
with all the publicity and all of the marketing and advertising that they did,
yeah.
I felt like it just was everywhere.
I
And
do
then-
think that Sierra might be right, that it might be winning a Grammy. It did feel like a Grammy film, you know?
Interesting.
Like, I feel like a lot of, not Grammy, I meant Oscar.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
meant
we talked about
Oscars.
the wrong medium.
I meant
I
Oscars.
wanna
But I feel
go.
like, you know, a lot of Oscar movies, like, aren't the greatest movies in the world. They're just, like,
None of them are.
cinematography-wise, they're, like, spot on. It was good cinematography.
It was spot on, but
Yeah.
it just was. It like, I
Yeah.
feel like it was more just centered around Barbie. Like the plot, I felt like didn't land.
Sure, yeah. That's fair. Also, there were kids running around the theater.
Oh
so
my gosh,
did
that
not
was a
help.
terrible experience. I never want to go back to a movie theater ever again.
Oh,
It was
that's
really
Which
that
theater
bad.
did you guys go to?
Went to
Edwards in Laverne.
Oh.
But we sat there, and like there was like maybe 10 other people there, maybe 12.
Yeah.
And there was like in the row ahead of us and to the right, there was a mom and like 2 girls who had to be at least like 10.
Oh,
no, they had to be like 10 or 12,
Oh.
and some like 6-year-old.
Oh yeah.
And they just were like so loud, and the little girl like got to a point.
She was running around.
Granted,
the theater.
it was also like what time we saw this movie at like 9 p.m. So also it was like by the time we left the theater it was like 11:30.
Yeah.
But still, and this little girl at one point in the movie is literally running up and down the aisles and in front of the screen, and I'm just like, I can't handle this.
It's wild.
I can't handle it. And like multiple people like were shushing them, and like mom didn't say anything, and I was like, that was so
Get your kid out of here.
mind blowing to me, because if I was a parent, I'd tell my kid to shut up or we would have left.
Yep.
I don't know if you have any.
Yeah.
Phil's just absorbing all of
Yeah.
this.
No, I don't.
Phil agrees.
I can't deal with people in movies that
Yeah.
are like that.
It just
It's
was
like,
wild.
Yeah.
It
be
just,
respectful.
like not respectful, and the fact that mom didn't do anything.
But don't you think that people in general are less respectful now than they ever have been?
Well,
Just in the history of the world.
in the
It's
past
true.
Probably.
couple of years, I feel like
It's
Yeah.
true. I mean, it's like
People lost
That's
social skills during COVID too. I feel like so that
Well-
you got
or they
that.
just became like whatever. I'm
Jerks.
just gonna do whatever I want
that's
type of thing. So
Sure,
strange.
very strange.
That's
All right, Bill.
That's my POV.
my POV.
Do you have a POV for us?
Coffee bean is better than Starbucks.
Oh,
I'm so glad that I talked about the Barbie movie, because that was almost my POV.
That
That was
coffee
the
bean
one-
was better than Starbucks.
Yes.
Well, you know what? You,
I'm
you
so
can go for
glad.
that. I'll talk about the Barbie movie if you'd like to talk about it.
no, she already talked about Barbie.
Oh,
I already
okay,
talked about
all
you.
right.
You.
So we
This is
can't
your
go back.
time. This
Yeah.
is your time.
Why?
The coffee tastes better.
I agree. Even though I have a Starbucks.
the bakery items are better.
Yeah.
And
Have you had the bacon Gouda from Starbucks though? That's
I
what's
just
keeping
told
me
you
at
at the
Starbucks.
beginning of this, I'm not a big cheese guy.
But it's a bacon
But you
Gouda
don't even like-
sandwich.
yeah, it's not
like a
full
breakfast sandwich.
cheese.
No,
I think you should have that because I agree
no,
with you.
I don't go to Starbucks anymore.
Okay, this Sunday I'm gonna bring you a bacon Gouda, so don't get breakfast.
No, Because
He's not
it's
gonna
from
eat
Starbucks.
it. He's not gonna eat it.
No, but you have to eat it. It's so good. I agree with you. Coffee bean is better, but the bacon Gouda from Starbucks is like heaven.
What is this?
It's very
Bacon
good.
Gouda.
It's
What
a
is
sandwich.
It's on ciabatta
it has
bread,
egg.
too.
It's on ciabatta bread. It's
Bacon.
egg, bacon, and Gouda.
Gouda.
Oh, it's
It's
just
good.
scrambled eggs.
No, it's like an egg. Like they
It's
put
like
it.
an egg frittata thing.
Yeah, it's like an egg round.
It's so good. It has
It's
like
actually
cheese
pretty
in.
decent.
I'll bring it to you.
Pretty decent is not the kind of
I'll
breakfast
here.
I'm
How about
looking
this?
for.
I'll go to 2 places for you just so that you can be happy.
Is
I'll
that
go
right?
to Coffee
No,
Bean,
no,
get your
no.
coffee, and then I'm gonna go to Starbucks and get your bacon Gouda.
No, you don't have to do that. Don't do that.
But I really want you to
If you're
eat this
gonna do
bacon
that, can you
Gouda.
let me know so I can
Sure.
send you my order?
Yeah, got it.
What's your go-to bakery item at Coffee Bean and your go-to beverage?
Beverage.
Vanilla latte with an extra shot.
No, I don't like vanilla.
Wrong.
Oh, I mean, shoot! It's a non-fat latte with no flavoring with an extra shot of espresso.
Yes. Large, non-fat latte with 4 shots. And
Is there any taste besides burnt beans?
No, Coffee Bean doesn't burn their beans.
there you go.
Is it just
reason.
what is it? Is it just how? Is it just
So-
liquid?
Do you want me to tell you why I like that?
Go, please, I insist.
So in Europe, they have better coffee than America.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it's bitter. It's bitter, but it doesn't have an aftertaste.
Okay.
Okay.
And I can't find that taste in the United States. So the only way that I can get close is if you just overload coffee with espresso.
Wow.
So I do 4 shots,
4 shots.
large, non-fat latte.
Yeah.
No flavoring. It's
No.
just straight
Just
espresso.
straight coffee. Good for you.
And what's your
bakery
bakery item of choice?
Bakery or just food?
Just a food item. Sorry, food item from Coffee Bean.
It changes. Coffee Bean, like I've had it so much though that
It's like a bacon, egg, and Gouda.
everything's getting a little bit like old.
Okay,
Right.
you've worked your way through the
I've
menu.
worked my way through. I've been doing the almond croissants recently, just because
yeah,
I haven't
that's good.
Oh,
I haven't had that as much, but yeah,
So good.
yeah.
So good. Those are delicious.
Yeah.
I love them. All right, we're gonna land this plane,
Okay.
That was good.
and we're just gonna say goodbye, and we're gonna say see you next Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed this. Shout out to Bill Hetzel for the studio, for the lights,
Thanks, Bill.
for all
No
the
worries.
stuff that we used, for coming on today. We love Bill Hetzel.
He's great. What a
He's
guy.
not Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Thank
Bill
God.
Nye the
The
Science
Science
Guy.
Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.